Hello, and welcome back to Mortals and Portals, a Pathfinder Real Play podcast. I am your host and GM, Zach, and joining me at the table is...
Adam, and I play Tuff's best friend, Jules, an Azarketi Bard.
Wishful thinking.
I'm Joel, and I play Dax, Tuff's arch nemesis, a kobold rogue.
Accurate. Yeah.
I'm Ryan. I play Tuff, everybody's worst enemy.
I'm Taryn. I play Walt's a general acquaintance, I think.
Yeah, just kind of there.
Just a guy.
Just there for the
Caught in the
vibes.
middle of it all.
He's just there. Yeah.
Geldir's friend.
Gelder's new friend, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, this is back to back. We recorded this right after last episode, so we're still here drinking coffee on a nice weekend morning, plowing through these episodes. And yeah, so it's all fresh on our minds. Let's see what happened last time on Mortals and Portals. You guys kind of continued your little feud with Tuff. Tuff's still mad. He's still not over it. He failed his get over dead dad check. And he's kind of just angry at everybody. Stormed off, and he was going to look for what is called a Pathfinder. Haha, get it? A subtle nod to the system. And this is basically someone equipped with the knowledge of charting interplanetary travel through nodes. It's a very complex process, requires a lot of resources. You get what you pay for kind of thing. And Tuff wanted to go find one. And he met with him, and he gave him this it sounded complicated, but it was as simple as it could be, as possible, really, routes to get to a place called Inuari on Arcta, which is apparently where the coordinates that the Keepers gave you guys leads to. And the information he gave you was that there isn't a lot of information on this place. People avoid it. It's in the middle of like a barren stretch of Arctic blizzard and winds, and it's this little pine forest that kind of appears like a haven if you were trying to get through this barren wasteland, but legends say that people get thrown off by illusions when they enter and just kind of come out wherever and don't really know what happened. Or there's also legends that there's crazy beasts in there and all sorts of stuff. So the Pathfinder was like, are you sure you want to go here? And Tuff's like, well, I guess I gotta. And so, he got his little course and left and was going to share it with Digby's crew. Jules kind of tried to make amends again with a really touching story that just did not touch Tuff, I guess. And Tuff was like, yeah, hey, good job. You proved that I'm a better friend than you. And then he shoved him.
Dang it.
Darn it. Tried.
Untouchable.
And then after that, so once you guys are getting ready to take your wagon ride to the first node you're going to catch, Waltz saw Geldir, and Geldir's with his daughter. His daughter's real. Geldir didn't lie about that. He lies about a lot of things, okay, but he didn't lie about that. And his daughter was kind of trying to help him to be less of a jerk, you could say. And she encouraged him to go thank Waltz for all he did. And as a token of their gratitude, they apparently made some plate armor, which was originally something they just did together to bond and for Geldir to get his smithing skills back, but they decided to give it to Waltz full plate. And it also has a rune that allows Waltz to think of any other piece of clothing basically while he's wearing it, and it'll appear like that, which is pretty cool. And Geldir thought that would help him with his shenanigans that he's always trying to get up to. And you all departed.
I can't wait to see what Taryn does with that, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Really, it was one of those things where I was like, should I give him this? Yeah, let's do it. Let's see what he does. I can't.
Just be different band tees every
I'll
time.
probably forget about it anyways. Is it full plate, just so I know what to give myself?
It's full plate armor, dude. Yeah, Taryn will delete his character sheet again and then forget to give it back.
It's good. You didn't sneak well anyway. It's fine.
That is where we ended our session, and that's not quite where we're going to start our session. We are going to maybe skip a little bit along this route. So you had this 12-day route that you had, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it'd be fair to say that throughout this journey, Tuff has really only been telling Digby's crew what they need to know for the next step, not really sharing all the information and resources he has with them, still angry at them, maybe kind of keeping to himself. All of you, the vibe isn't as good as it's always been, and you're chatting a little bit, maybe refining some of the details of your discussion at the tavern, like maybe elaborating more on the Alvirium or how you defeated the Mergfang, kind of just really fully catching up, kind of filling in all the gaps on that. So I think it's safe to say you guys all fully know what happened at Ciudad de la Nubes at this point. You've been traveling at a pretty brisk pace because the Pathfinder gave you a really tight schedule, so it's not like you're just chilling and have all this time to do this or that. But yeah, like the Pathfinder said, you guys managed to stick to your route, probably because Tuff is so angry and just sticking to the path and nobody's getting distracted because they don't want to upset him. You went to Fallbrook, a halfling town, took a node there. It brought you to Aquaria, but you couldn't really go around and check out your old home there, Jules, because he said the very next day the same note aligned, so you sort of just stayed on a beach there. Guys all relaxed, enjoyed being home. Jules, I imagine you enjoyed swimming in the waters again, at least for the time you had.
Heck yeah.
You probably talked to some fish that were nice to you. But we're not gonna waste any time on that one. No one wants to hear them like respect you. They want the fish that are stupid and hate you for no reason. It's true, but we can just imply that happened. And then you ended up on Mortifar, in a region called Twinland, which are two little islands off the coast of Langland that are primarily elvish settlements on the human homeworld. And it's out of reach of the war mostly, so Waltz, you didn't have to worry about anyone seeing the branding on your neck or knowing that you're a criminal. And you took a channel ride across to an island called Deerholt, which is a very rugged wilderness location. Apparently there's beastkin that live in the forests and things like that, but you stuck to yourselves, didn't disturb the land, nobody bothered you. You took a 3-day hike inland up a mountain, where you are awaiting the final node to align that should align very shortly. And this node will, in fact, take you to Inuari on Arcta, which is this forest that's translated to the spirit trees. And you all are sitting there kind of enjoying your final moments before you're in a much different location. You probably have your cold weather gear nearby ready to put on at any moment as you enjoy this beautiful weather for one final period. And I keep forgetting to tell you guys this, but obviously you guys have leveled up after you saved Ciudad de la Nubes. So
We're level 7?
Sweet.
Yeah, you leveled up. You leveled up like 2 or 3 episodes ago. I just forget to say it.
Yeah.
Level 7.
I've always wanted to be level 7.
And with that, we'll cut over to you guys.
Dax will be putting on his outer layers, trying to get prepared for this. Guys, I'm not looking forward to this. I mean, remember Pagos? That was miserable.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that cold again.
I'd say since Tough and Jules' last conversation, Jules has been a bit quieter, certainly giving Tough some space. I'd say on this journey, he's been doing a lot of playing his ocarina and just sketching in his sketch pad. So I don't know if he might say, agree with you, but I don't know if he's saying anything significant, just checking his gear and putting his winter gear on.
You all right, Jules?
Yes, I'm fine. Just making sure I have everything. I'll tighten his leather armor and...
All right. Let's hope we have a better time keeping you hydrated than last time. I don't want to build you another hot tub. That was ridiculous.
It was kind of nice, though.
Waltz, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to try on this new armor. Maybe it's in the form of a cold weather jacket right now. I'll change it back, getting used to the mechanics of changing the appearance of this armor.
Nice.
I like that. Looks slimming.
Yeah, thank you. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Looks like it really paid off not killing Geldir, huh?
I guess
so.
Waltz will notice Jules being a little bit quieter and things still not smoothed over. And look over to Tough. Maybe just walk over and sit by him. How you feeling, Tough?
I'm ready for this whole trip to be over with.
Yeah, we've been going for a while. It's been nice to have a little bit of a breather, though, huh?
Yeah, Lorthal was. A lot.
Yeah, listen, I know it can't be easy, what you're going through. And hey, you're a grown, cat. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I won't tell you how to feel about it. This is your battle to fight. Fight it however you want. The only thing I'll say is that we can choose to look for pain everywhere, and we'll find it. Or we can choose to look for the good. Look for things that we're grateful for, and we'll find that too. Like Renard's sacrifice, Smith's sacrifice, even Dax and Jules, and I'll look over to them, have sacrificed a lot for us. Though I'm sure it's hard to acknowledge that right now.
They see you trying to make me feel better.
Hey, like I said, I'm not going to tell you how to feel, but I guess I just want to ask you, what do you think Dunadast would think?
Tough will pause for a moment and kind of stare down.
Is this how he'd want you to feel about his death and his sacrifice?
And as Tough starts to turn it over in his mind, you can just see his brow furrow as thinking about it makes him angrier and angrier.
And listen, you don't have to answer that. Maybe it's just worth thinking about. But listen, we would love to have you on this team. But if we can't resolve this isn't going to work out well for anyone.
Well, if that was supposed to make me feel better, I'll tell you this, Waltz. Stick to what you're good at. I hope you find what that is someday. And then I'll just walk away.
Waltz will let him have the last word, as he knows that he often wants, and go back to Jules and Dax.
As Tough kind of walks away from that conversation, he's just getting frustrated in his mind all over again, as now he's kind of viewing somebody that he thought was innocent in the matter is taking the side of Jules and Dax, and he just is reminded of how alone he feels right now.
Dax, maybe as you're sitting there putting on your cold weather gear, you see Zoki kind of just laying on her back with her head on the bedroll, and she's just kind of like throwing little rocks at a tree as she's just kind of laying there bored, and maybe stop for a second as she was listening to Waltz and Tough have a conversation. You sort of see her ears perking and like rotating to hear a little bit better, and then kind of just goes back to throwing some rocks. And I don't know, Dax, it seems like you're the one who's most in tune with Zoki and kind of most concerned with her.
Mm-hmm.
This would be like kind of the last chance to not bring her if you felt like you didn't want to. You know that she wants to go and she wants to just be with you guys, but...
Hey, Zoki.
Yeah, she stops throwing the rocks, kind of just keeps her head laying on the bedroll.
How you feeling about all this? You have any reservations?
Well, I feel a lot better than I did that time we tried to stop that city falling, to the planet, and I thought we were all going to die, so I'm not too worried about the cold. Plus, I got fur, and she just starts throwing some more rocks.
Yeah, certainly more well-suited than these scales, that's for sure.
Yeah, make sure you stay bundled up.
You sure you're up for coming with us? I have no idea what we're about to get ourselves into.
She stops throwing the rocks again and then sits up. You're not going to leave me here, are you? I'm not worried about some cold. We'll be fine.
I mean, no, I'm not going to leave you here. I just, want to make sure you're all the way on board before it's too late.
I lived most of my life by myself, and I made it out just fine. I think I like my chances with some friends.
I think you and I are pretty similar, Zoki.
I think so, too.
I felt much the same way before I ended up leaving Drakis. And you know what? I'm glad I did, so I'm with you. If you want to figure out where this goes, I'm all in.
She's nodding, kind of smiles, puts her hand on your shoulder. I think I could get used to this whole family thing. And then she lifts her hand off your shoulder, and you can see her kind of just thinking, and then look over at Tough. If you'll excuse me. She stands up and walks over to Tough, who's maybe standing there by himself. She maybe pulls out a toothpick and starts picking her teeth like she was the first time she talked to you. What's up, Sourpuss?
Oh, God, not you now, too.
Yes.
Oh, love it.
Nice.
She's sort of just standing there, just kind of looking into the woods. You're still angry, huh?
Oh, is it that obvious?
Yeah. I mean, you're like a cat who hops up on the counter and knocks things off. You just got to make sure everybody knows you're upset.
Damn.
Very funny. But,
I thought so.
You try having your dad killed, and then your friend lie to you about it.
I've been thinking about that, actually. I never knew my dad, but it would be cool to know if I had a dad that cared so much about other people he was willing to sacrifice himself. Kind of like Renard, And then she's picking her teeth some more, and then she looks at you. I know you like to do things the hard way, but if you're so desperate for family, why don't you stop pushing away the only one you ever had? And then she just walks off. She does not care what you said and just flicks her toothpick into the forest.
Heck yes.
Nice.
Dude.
Tough will just kind of click his teeth. Freaking kid.
I just realized I could talk to Tough. I was like, why don't you freaking shut up for a second, Tough?
Do we have an idea of like how soon this node's going to go off? Is it like could be hours?
It's going to be soon. Like the times are imprecise. They usually use like midday or whatever. So it just means you need to be, it's kind of like going to the airport. You should be there like a couple hours before you think it's going to align and just wait for it to light up and get on that thing. So you're just waiting.
Yeah. Jules is probably sitting at the edge of the node and just playing his ocarina, maybe working on his melody a little bit and thinking of home, that little short stop in Aquaria. There's maybe a moment when he was swimming that he thought about just going back, but ultimately decided it's best for him to stay with the group.
Maybe thought of what Blorb said of like, if you love her, why are you here kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
The wise words of Blorb ringing in your ear.
Yeah, no, he's been thinking a lot about Kara lately too, and he doesn't even know if he'd like be able to make it back without getting killed. But yeah, he had a brief moment where he's like, I'm here. Tough's, not digging me. Group dynamic is weird. Maybe it'd be better if I just peaced out.
Yeah.
And, go back and try to do something. But he ultimately decided to come back. So he's just having all these thoughts. He's trying to figure out what's going on. So he's just trying to disassociate, I guess, and have those moments of peace with his music, with his sketchbook.
Yeah, Dax is in the back of Dax's mind. A familiar thought pings, and he thinks of his good old buddy Meeg, who Zig abandoned on Arcta. And although we're not headed to the place that was, remind me, Zach.
Taco One. Which Zig, because the GM was controlling him, explained the translation to you as well in the moment that it means Survivor Valley, which is such an unnatural thing for him to say, but just the GM being like, it has a translation. It's Survivor Valley. Yeah, Zig was certain that he wouldn't have survived it, but that was also a long time ago, and who knows if Meeg is even on Arcta still or if he's even alive, but yeah.
So yeah, the thought of Meeg comes up in the back of Dax's mind, and he gets a little hopeful, even though we're not headed to that place. You know, there's a chance, right? So it's the closest he's been so far. So that's the first thing he looked for when he landed outside of Karos from Dracus. So maybe a small beam of hope is ignited within Dax, but he's trying hard not to get his hopes up too much because the chances of him running into Meeg here are fairly slim.
As a Meegsicle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, Ryan. I'll cut that. It's fine.
There's a meager chance.
Can you just cut people laughing after it instead?
Yep.
Well, there's no laughs to cut. You mean drop it in?
Yeah.
I'll throw in
some on mine.
I'll throw some sound effects in.
Thanks. All right, Dax, as you're thinking of that, as Jules is playing Ocarina, as tough as just being a mopey man, a mopey moper. And Waltz is playing with his armor, I guess. I don't know.
Just changing
Just
into different
transforming it
clothes.
over and over again.
Waltz, why is it a dress?
I just always wanted to see how pretty I'd be in a nice dress like this.
Oh, very pretty.
And Jack. You all hear the familiar hum of a node preparing to align, something you've heard a few times by now, especially after your planet hopping and your original travels. And you realize you have mere moments before it aligns, and you see Zoki kind of hop up real fast and then pick up her coat and sling it over. She doesn't bundle it nearly as tight as Dax did. She's not as worried. All right, here we go. Never get sick of this. And then she walks over and stands on the node.
I'm shivering already.
Jules will get up and put his ocarina away and tighten his coat a little bit and walk up next to Zoki and... I always appreciate your enthusiasm, Zoki.
Well, it's better than watching drunkards in the back alley, I'll tell you what. Although they are an easy pickpocket.
Don't expect to see many where we're going.
Yeah, I'll say.
Hopefully we don't have to save any planets this time.
Yeah, let's just get this over with.
And the node illuminates the runes traced across it, flare brightly, and you feel an intense pull that rips you across the system of Keldora at blazing speeds as you tear through the stars until you are brought to an abrupt halt as you are now standing on a node with its dim retracting, and instantly feel a cold, chilling breeze that just whips around you all as you see snowflakes fluttering through the air. And Tough, just as the Pathfinder told you with his precise detail, you would be arriving at dusk. So you all look up and see orange and purples painted across the sky as the sun is gradually disappearing. Can you all roll me perception checks for the T-Rex that's around the corner again?
Lightning shooting type?
Nat 20!
Wow. Nice.
Non-nat 20.
28.
Wow.
Non-nat 20 as well.
Very cool. Wait, what? You all got 20s basically?
Basically.
At least.
In theory.
You'd all be able to observe this then. So, a couple observations, and you're probably going to just start walking immediately because the node isn't exactly where the coordinates were. It's just the closest node to those coordinates. And so Tough, you'd probably have your heading, especially using the maps that the Pathfinder gave you. So you all start walking, and it's pretty deep snow already. So maybe Tough is in the back letting like the taller Waltz Jules and Zoki kind of plow through the snow a little bit and make a little bit of a path, and you're all sort of walking in this single file line. And as you're walking, getting your bearings as the sun is slowly starting to go down and it shifts to nighttime, you notice that there are many moons in the sky of Arcta, which makes it a little bit brighter at night than most planets, just because there's so many moons reflecting the sun back at you. And a lot of these moons, they just look super beat up. There's tons of craters in them. There's even completely fractured moons that are just fragmented across the sky. And Tuff might know this, or you kind of all are inferring this, whether you know the exact reason or not, is Arcta is the most vulnerable to meteorites, just being the seventh planet from the sun. They're the first one that they don't have like other planets that are blocking meteors for them on the system. So their moons take a beating. Arcta itself has taken a beating. Tuff, you might know that Arcta is the planet with the most nebulite, because nebulite comes from meteors, and Arcta is struck the most. So yeah, some of its moons are completely destroyed from that as well. And as you're walking, you would also notice occasionally like little flickers of purple in the snow, or even in the snowflakes that fall. And Tuff, you would probably know this. I don't think anyone else would. They would just kind of observe it as like beautiful snow, or kind of interesting, or something magical about this place. This is referred to as moonlight, or some people call them starflakes, because Arcta takes so many meteors and has the most nebulite. Occasionally when a meteor hits and nebulite is fragmented around the planet over like repeated cycles of evaporating and snowing down, it gets like really refined. It makes these like light little purple flakes that reflect like only moonlight specifically. And it can be harvested, and it is used in some of the most potent potions in Keldora, but it does just make the snow look really like beautiful. It's not like a ton of purple, but occasionally just like little flickers. Sometimes it's like a pinker or a bluer shade, but yeah, it's just this like really majestic place as the snow falls lightly.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Yeah.
Very pretty.
It's fairly cool.
This was pretty, yeah. So as you guys are walking, is there anything you want to say to each other? It's definitely very cold. It is beautiful. So you're in this like pine forest. They're not like typical pine trees. I mean, some of them look a little bit more like a standard tree, just with pine needles. So it does feel very familiar, like a forest, just trees that you haven't really seen on any other planet. And it's mostly flat, though there's the occasional like rocky cluster or things like that. Some of the rocks themselves maybe are infused with some nebulite, but it makes sense that people haven't really harvested this area because the Pathfinder said it's so dangerous. But so far you haven't really seen any beasts or illusions or things like that, and you're just sticking out in this cold. And as the sun goes down, it is getting very, very cold. And like the Pathfinder said, it has the longest day and night cycle outside of Dracus, so it's going to be dark and cold for a long time.
Well, it's certainly beautiful here.
Yeah, it really
Never
is.
seen anything like it.
Gives Dracus a run for its money, honestly. Just wish it wasn't so dang cold. I didn't think it could be colder than Pagos.
It is much colder than Pagos.
Just focus on the beauty, Dax. It's about all we can do.
Yeah, we should probably hurry. I don't know how long we can sustain this climate.
Tough, any idea how much further?
Tough, you can roll me a survival or a nature check if you want to know. I'd say survival check.
12.
The metal is getting very cold on your body, and like you're really hating trudging through the snow, like you're too short for it. And you're probably pretty cranky, and you don't even like want to pull out the map. It's so cold. You just know that you have like you're heading, and you don't know like how much longer per se.
Yeah, Tuff will just be shivering as he's trudging through the snow and say, freaking snow. The only thing worse than something wet is something cold and wet. I don't know, Jewel Das. We'll get there when we get there.
Very well. Thanks for the update.
Is Tuff like out of earshot from the rest of us, or?
There's enough like wind whipping around. You probably could just like creep forward a little bit because he is in the back.
Okay. Well, obviously it's not looking good with our friend Tuff here. Listen, Dax, you know this just as well as anyone. We find ourselves in some tough situations, and I don't know if we can risk having someone who resents us this much. Situations we keep finding ourselves in.
I don't know that we do anything, Waltz. It sounds like after we're done here on Arcta, he's gonna leave and go do his own thing, so I think we just let him.
Yeah.
I'm not in the business of making people stick around.
Yeah, I hear you, Dax. What about you, Jules? What's your plan when all this is over?
I don't know yet. The wound is still fresh, and he'll kind of look back at Tough. He needs time to heal.
Well, I hope he comes around.
Me too.
So I would say you guys have been walking for a few hours now, and obviously it's extremely cold, and you're trudging through heavy snow. So all of you are going to take fatigue 1 status, which means you take a -1 status penalty to AC and saving throws. And as you're enduring this cold, I need each of you to roll me a fortitude saving throw. Keeping in mind you are fatigued and you'll take a -1.
Right.
If you add it as a condition, it'll do it for you, just so you know.
Yes.
So I'm actually having you roll a few of these basically just in one roll.
25 for old Dax.
26.
Tough also got a 25.
Nice.
16.
All right.
Uh-oh.
That metal plate's awful cold.
Another 3. Bad rolls today, fellas.
It's okay.
Yeah, get over
It's not
it.
a reflection of you, Walt. Karen.
All right. So as you guys have been trudging through this, the cold is just eating its way through even your cold weather gear, which is helping you, by the way. But after you've been out here for some time and the wind is whipping around, it's like really starting to take its effect. Everyone but Waltz is going to take half damage, which will be 8 cold damage. And Waltz, you're going to take 16
Holy cow.
cold damage.
Nani?
And you really are just trudging in this line. It's not like you're like falling in the snow or anything. It's just the cold air is really just chipping away at you guys. And can you all roll me survival checks?
Ooh.
Non-nat 20.
That's 18.
13.
What'd you get, Waltz?
7.
The rolls are rough.
That's hilarious. All right. Yeah. And as you guys are just trudging through this snow, maybe have your heads down, really. Like lifting your head just exposes your face to the cold. Any kind of energy or enthusiasm you had about this journey, the beauty you first witnessed, it's all just faded and now you're cold. You're like angry. You're like wet. You just want to get to some warmth. You don't really know where you're going. Tough isn't being very communicative to tell you how much further you have to go. So you're kind of just checking out like mentally, you know, as you're just trying to like worry about yourself for a moment. And as you guys are trudging, listening to the wind whipping through the trees and the snows swirling around you, falling, Tough, you're maybe kind of lost in thought, just angry, maybe occasionally looking up at the group in front of you just with a lot of spite in your heart. Maybe even thinking about Zoki's words about like, why are you trying to push away the only family you've ever had, and just all these like different angles of people telling you what to think about and feel, while also just her pointing out like, I wish I had a dad that cared enough about people to sacrifice himself, kind of reminding you that it was his choice whether you agree with it or not. And I don't know, you're just very conflicted and angry, but you're suddenly snapped from this thought as you just hear snow rip up in a loud cloud behind you as massive hands rip through the snow covered in white fur and just tear across your back. Beautiful. As 48 damage from these massive claws tearing through your back, sending metal flying across the snow as you all hear Tough yell out this loud scream, basically, as you hear this roar, and he maybe flies forward onto his chest, and you turn around and just see this massive lumbering yeti ripping out of the snow and take a firm stance before you as it turns its head at all of you, takes a deep breath in that fills its chest, and then sticks 1 foot forward and lets out this chilling wind that it fires out of its mouth at all of you. Can you all, including Tough, roll me a reflex save? And keep in mind you're fatigued, so that is -1.
And I don't get to use reflex anymore if I'm wearing full plate. I have to use a +3 modifier instead of my dexterity modifier.
Ooh, okay.
Whoa. I rolled really good.
19.
21.
I got a 32.
22.
All right. As this chilling wind fires out of this yeti's mouth, swirling with icicles and just intense cold that overcomes all of you, everyone but Tough is going to take 20 damage from this breath weapon. And Tough, maybe because you're laying prone from getting knocked over, although you're not mechanically prone, you cover your head and most of it singes over your back, and you're going to take 10 damage instead. And this Yeti just begins to pound its chest and roar as snow just vibrates off the tree branches and just starts to rain down from how loud of a roar this was. And it just has, like, its arms are almost like comically huge. They're just gigantic arms. And that will take us to...
Did we even roll initiative?
You did when you rolled your survival. Also, this Yeti had an ability where if he hits a creature in the first round of combat and was hidden from that creature at the start of combat, each enemy within 30 feet that witnessed the attack, including the target, must make a will save. So can you all roll me a will save real quick?
Mm-hmm. Of course he does.
23.
24.
27. There we go.
A will save, 16.
Everybody but Waltz is frightened 2 from this menacing display, and Waltz is frightened 1.
Oh my
Seriously?
god.
Just
Jeez.
You were like determined to kill me before it's even my turn.
You're traveling in the back, bro. And that will
Frightened.
take us to Dax, as you're all just kind of trembling with fear about how sudden this thing emerged, how ferocious it attacked, and just how massive and menacing it is.
Heart racing. Dax is going to ball up his fist as it glows red, and he is going to cast Ignition at this Yeti,
All right.
which now that he's scared, or now that he's frightened and fatigued, is not looking so good. That is a non-natural 20.
Dax, you hurl this flame through the night. The Yeti, seeing it coming, grits its teeth. It has this like wide smile with a bunch of fangs, and then it steps forward again and just lets out a brief like puff of wind from its mouth that just knifes through the fire and then just knocks it out completely. And he is unscathed by the flame you fired.
Good lord. All right. With my last action, I'll just take out my short sword.
All right, and that'll take us to Jules.
Jules will have a small moment of panic and surprise, and then he'll shake his head. He'll pull out his ocarina, and he'll start with Dirge of Doom. So he will play that eerie melody. So enemies within the 30-foot emanation are frightened 1. They can't reduce their frightened value below 1 while they remain in the area. So I will play that. Then I will look at Tough, who just sustained quite the injury, and I will play Hem of Healing. So that means that you, Tough, gain fast healing 8, and if I sustain it, you will gain another 8 temporary hit points, which last for 1 round. So,
Yeah, sustain is an action you can take to just like maintain the benefits of a spell. So it's saying you can spend an action each round to maintain that for up to 4 rounds.
Cool.
So I get those temporary hit points right now, 8 of them.
Yes.
Nice. Ryan is thankful. Tough is like,
Yeah, you better do it. Yeah, Jules, you just whip out your ocarina and begin to like ferociously start playing all these tunes, doing your best. Like maybe the tune is a little shaky at first as your hands are trembling from like being afraid and it's cold, and like the notes kind of come out a little wobbly as you play them, and then you just close your eyes and you just know your friend is in trouble. And you're basically trying to like nail this performance in front of this massive Yeti you've never seen before, just going absolutely insane. And that will take us to Tough.
sheesh. And none of our weapons are drawn, I'm guessing, right?
No.
Tough will be very ticked off that he got hit by this abominable snowman or whatever it is. Pop up. He's going to pull his many shafted gun off of his back
Do it.
and fill it with a junk bomb. I'm going to blast boots as far away from the Yeti as I can too, which gets me 30 feet. Maybe try to get behind Digsby's crew.
Nice. Yeah, you fire out your blast boots. Snow just kicks up in the air. You melt the spot in the snow as you fly backwards. Maybe like kind of aimlessly. You're not even looking where you're going. You're just like getting away as you're loading the gun in the air, and the Yeti swipes its hand trying to grab you as you fly away, and then just beats its chest in anger as it sees you get out of its reach because it was really trying to pummel you.
And then as I land, yell, "Stupid furball," and blast off my junk bomb at him.
All right.
28.
Nice.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm doing
Gonna roll
good
me your
now.
damage.
Nice.
6, 13. So I do 13 slashing damage, 2 persistent bleed damage, and 2 slashing splash damage. And I want to say that splash is like a 5 feet around him.
All right. Tough. As you're flying, you fire out this junk bomb, and then the Yeti lifts its massive mitt-like hand and just catches it out of the air, and then like turns and looks at it, and then it just blows up in his face as he like stumbles back for a second, and you see a bunch of shrapnel stabbing into his like white fur and some blood trickling down it, and it just shakes its head. It just looks angry, and then it just hunches over and lets out another loud roar as the trees bend from how loud it's yelling, and snow is just trembling.
Pipe down.
And that'll take us back to Waltz.
Okay, I'm going to run up to it for my first action. I want to make an unarmed attack for my second action. And wait, what size is this?
It is large.
Okay, and then I will grapple it for my third action.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So roll your unarmed attack first.
Okay.
Keep in mind, if you
Fist.
grapple second, it has a multi-attack penalty. If you
-5.
grappled him first, then it would make him flat-footed to you, and then your punch would...
Oh, then I'll do that. I didn't know I could punch him while grappling him.
Yeah, you can. You just need a free hand.
I will run up to him first, grapple him, and then I'll make an unarmed strike against him.
Nice.
All right. Roll me your athletics check for the grapple.
27.
Nice. Waltz, you just start sprinting through the snow as Tuff flies overhead and then shoots the junk bomb. The junk bomb explodes. And as the Yeti regains its senses and looks, it just sees you like running with your heavy plate through the snow. And then you run underneath its legs for a moment, and then it turns around trying to find you, but you grab onto its back and then just like yank him forward, keeping him in place as he's trying to like reach around behind and grab you, as Waltz is literally grappling a Yeti at the moment.
Come on.
What an insane Leroy Jenkins move. And what do you do? You said you're going to punch it after that?
Yeah, that'll be my third action.
Okay, it is flat-footed to you, so roll it up.
19.
Boy.
He's also frightened one, Zach, just to remind you, because I played Dirge of Doom.
Okay, well, that is exactly enough then. So Waltz,
Hey!
as it
Nice.
starts to turn around, you just like
The
reach
bard is
up
farting.
like an overhead hook and just punch it really hard in its ribs, and you almost feel like you heard its ribs break as it like turns and winces in pain for a moment. It's just shocked by the way you're attacking it. It's like never seen somebody do this before. So roll damage.
Okay, he takes 1d4 plus 6, so you know.
All right.
Max damage.
6 damage. No, 8 damage. I'm sorry, 8 damage because I rolled a 2. 2 plus 6.
Nice. So I just picture like almost like multiple punches as you're just like punching into its rib, holding on to it, and it's like flailing its arms around, trying to like get turned around and look at you.
That'll teach it.
So it is going to try and break free first of this grapple, and I'm guessing a 28 beats your athletics DC.
Yeah, it does.
So Waltz, it like throws an elbow back that like hits you in the chin, and you stumble back as your neck snaps back, and then you turn around to see it square up with you, and it just raises like both fists above its head, and it's gonna like a gorilla just try and pummel you into the ground.
Uh-oh.
Does a 24 beat your AC, keeping in mind your, well, I guess you're no longer frightened, but you are fatigued, so your AC -1?
No.
It doesn't.
Oh, new armor.
New armor and level 7.
Nice. So the fists come down and just bash off your new plate armor that absorbs the blow. You feel maybe the wind get knocked out of you for just a second, and then kind of like take a deep breath in and realize this armor just saved you. But then a second fist is just flying at you with the claws outstretched, and does, with the multi-attack penalty, does a 26 beat your AC.
Wait, am I frightened 1?
You're not frightened 1, but you're fatigued 1.
So that minuses 1 from my AC?
Yeah.
Then yes.
Okay. So you maybe like look down for a second, like, oh wow, it worked. But then see a second one, and like his hand is just huge. It's almost like as big as you, it feels like. And then it just cracks across your armor, and some of the claws get underneath, and it is going to deal 18 damage.
Jeez.
Oh boy.
What did I ever do to
And-
you, Zach?
And then it lets out another loud roar, and that'll take us back to Dax.
Goodness. All right, Dax is somewhat surprised to see Waltz bum rushing this Yeti. Dax is going to ball up his fist, and again, some orange fire will start to emanate from his hand. But he's actually going to put this on his chest to start warming himself up. Just fun flavor for using battle medicine to try to help some of that frost damage that he got. I'm gonna do battle medicine and use my assurance feat to automatically succeed on my DC 20 check, which will get me 1d8 plus 10 hit points back. Show 19 hit points back.
Nice.
Very nice.
And now that he's warmed up a little bit, how far away from this Yeti am I at this point?
Maybe 10 feet at most.
Okay. I will stride up to this Yeti and using my Titan Wrestler feat,
Whoa.
Nice.
I will go ahead and try to trip the Yeti, I suppose.
I
Nice.
got
Okay.
Titan Wrestler too. Titan Wrestler's dope.
All right, roll it up.
Lame. 17.
Yeah, Dax, you start running up to this Yeti, hopping through the footprints that are like already there, trying to like move through this deep snow. And as you're patching yourself up with battle medicine at the same time, and then are going to run up and maybe like with your sword try and slash at its leg to trip it. And as you go to do that, the Yeti just swipes its big fist through the snow and kicks up a bunch of snow in your face, and you like lose sight of it for a second and just kind of slash at nothing, and then the snow falls down and realized you missed the Yeti. And that will take us to Jules.
I'll start out by sustaining my spell. So tough. If you sustain the spell, the target gains 8 temporary hit points.
Cool. Thanks.
And then for my last 2 actions, I'm going to raise my hand in a gun shape. Pew pew. And I'm going to shoot 2, not magic missiles, 2 force barrages.
Ooh.
Nice.
I'll do level 2 spell. So that first one is 2d4. So that's 7 damage.
7.
And then the next one, which becomes 3d4 because it is heightened, 8 damage.
Nice. Okay, Jules,
good,
yeah, you're
pretty good.
firing out these bolts after you heal tough some more, and these bolts just like fly through the air, the aqua color, and then they strike this Yeti and just sparks fly off of it. And you see some of its fur singed away, maybe some of its skin underneath, and it just looks at you, and its eyes flare this bright yellow of just anger and rage. And that will take us to Tough.
Whew. Does the Yeti have any status stuff on him right now?
No, not anymore.
Okay. Tough will have watched Dax attempt to trip this Yeti, and Tough will sort of say to himself, but also out loud, so that Dax can hear it, "I'll show you how to trip somebody. I guess I gotta do everything myself." And he'll take out his pistol, and thanks to me being level 7, I got a new breakthrough modification for my gun. So I imagine
Hey.
after some time of having that grappling hook that I picked up a while ago that Zach gave me, Tough maybe found a way to adapt that and attach it to his pistol. So I now have a rope shot as my breakthrough modification.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
So what I can do with the rope shot is I can shoot out like simple ropes or nets around foes' legs to trip targets. So I have the ranged trip trait with this gun now too.
All right.
And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot off like a little rope, like maybe with those 2 ball things attached to the end of it, sort of
makes
thing,
sense.
as like an attachment to it, and attempt to trip this Yeti.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
you are.
And I roll against his reflex save. Here I go. 28.
Tough, you fire this out, and it's just as this Yeti was trudging towards Dax, who just came up to him, and then as he takes a step forward, suddenly that little rope and ball kind of just wraps around his leg, and then his foot hooks, and then he just falls flat into the snow, and a bunch of snow flies up into the air, and you've successfully tripped this Yeti.
How do you like the snow, furball?
Is that the end of your turn?
I believe I can use a third action to now shoot him with my gun.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, taste this. It'll taste a little worse than a snowball. And then I'll blast at him.
Okay.
I got a... Ooh, this is a lot. 34.
Dang.
That is a critical success.
Come on! I finally get to use my crit thing for the gun.
Let's
See,
go, big tough
all
guy.
that grieving over how poorly I roll, that's how karma works. If you complain about it enough, the world will let you roll good.
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to roll 4d6 plus 2. Should I make that a plus 4 then?
Yeah, +4.
Oh boy. I said 12 plus 2 is 14 damage. And then with my critical specialization, the target must succeed at a fortitude save against your class DC or be stunned 1.
All right. A fortitude save.
Fortitude save, yes.
He has really good fortitude. Does a 24 beat it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
darn.
22.
That was a close one. Okay. Tough, as he's rolling around on the ground, you just expertly aim as he's like squirming with his mouth open, just yelling, and then you just fire and hit him like right in the mouth, and some of his teeth like get shattered out of his mouth.
I kind of feel bad for that one.
His head like snaps back and his like head hits the ground, but then he's like still rolling, trying to get this thing untangled. As he presses up with his arm, he's kind of like halfway sitting upright, and you're just shocked that this thing could just take a bullet into the mouth and is still alive. Is that the end of your turn?
That is.
That takes us to Waltz.
Okay, so I'm going to make another grapple attempt, then an unarmed strike, and then I want to aid Dax with his attack.
Okay.
Athletics. Roll 32.
Okay. Yeah, you maybe like jump on its back or something and just like wrap your arm around its throat as it's like rolling around the ground because it's prone, you know, and you're kind of like rolling with it, almost grappling him on the ground, like MMA style.
And then I'll throw an unarmed strike.
Okay, roll it up.
29.
That hits. Roll me damage.
Nice.
10.
That like Waltz is literally like MMA fighting this Yeti on the ground, like grappling him and like punching him in the ribs like over and over again where he punched him before, and the Yeti's just like flailing around. And then you said you wanted to aid Dax.
Dax, come on, get him now. Yeah, I'll aid him
Nice.
with his attack. And so I have to make a roll for that.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have cooperative nature, I add +4 to circumstance bonus on checks to aid. So what do I roll for aid again?
And this one you could just roll athletics, I would say, as you're grappling him.
Okay, 31.
Whoa,
Oh, nice.
Tear Bear.
Dang, dude.
Wow.
Wow.
Good round.
Awesome. Okay. We'll see if you can keep this Yeti down.
He down bad.
So
Waltz,
bad.
you're feeling pretty confident as you're like grappling this thing, but then it just reaches up and grabs your forearms that are around its neck and just like rips your arms off of it. And then it just opens its legs and like busts that rope that was around it and almost does like that really athletic like kick thing off the ground and then just lands like heavily in
What
the snow
the-
as the entire ground shakes. So basically he broke free of the grapple, then stood up from prone, and that's why I described. So then he starts like beating his chest and just like screaming super loud, and then you just see like the snow around all of you kind of just swirling around as it's like building this cyclone, and you don't really know like what this thing is like charging up, and it just is like insane with this bloodlust, and it looks down and its eyes are flaring yellow, and the trees are just shaking and vibrating all around it, kind of just bending. You don't know what kind of magic it's conjuring, and then all of the sudden, you hear a loud howl, and the Yeti turns its head, confused, and the snow that it was conjuring around it just slowly falls onto the ground. And then you look up on a hill, and this massive direwolf is standing on this rock, and then it barks and snarls down at the Yeti, and the Yeti squares up with the direwolf and tilts its head and kind of grumbles back to them, and the direwolf barks again, and the Yeti looks at all of you
Is it
and tilts its head,
Eddard?
confused,
No.
and then its shoulders sink, and it looks down at Waltz and spits on the snow, and then sticks out its hand to help up Waltz.
Whoa. What? Is this like a guardian of wherever we're going right now or something, and they realize who we are?
I don't know.
What?
I'll
we made a
never
friend.
tell.
Shut up so we can find out.
Sorry for shooting out your teeth.
Very surprised, Waltz will not let this opportunity slip away, so immediately grab his hand and raise to his feet.
Maybe you do that thing with your middle finger where you tickle his palm.
Yeah, I
just to
tickle his
give him
palm like,
extra.
Waltz, when you stand up, he takes his very heavy hand and is like dusting the snow off your armor, and it's like sending you like rocking back and forth. It's like not gentle at all.
Oh.
And he's just like patting you. And then he shakes and a bunch of snow comes off of his fur, and he looks around at everyone who is standing up at this point and just snorts and then just kind of starts walking off into the trees, maybe like adjusting its shoulder. It's just like leaving you guys alone completely.
Wait, so the Yeti's gone now?
He walked off. He just like helped you guys up and then walked
Oh.
off. The dire wolf is still there.
Okay.
What the hell was that? I wasn't done shooting him yet.
Dax is going to stand in a defensive position, maybe with his sword pointed out towards the dire wolf, but he's not going to move yet.
Hey, thank you.
The dire wolf lowers its head very low to the ground, kind of like a wolf does that's like stalking its prey, but then raises it, and you could tell a wolf, yeah, and you could tell it was more of like a bow, and then it disappears behind the rock, and a powerful breeze flows through the forest behind you and starts carving a trail through the snow, just like clearing it out of the way, making this path that winds deep into the forest.
What is going on, guys? I don't like this.
This is certainly strange.
I think this is a good thing. I hope.
Well, I suppose we follow the path?
Dadoy. Yeah. And then Tuff will kind of stumble forward and maybe kind of reach for his back like he's in pain. Let's get moving.
Are we just going to act like that wild thing didn't just did Tuff, do your notes did they say anything about this?
Well, monsters are pretty common, Dax. Don't know if you've ever heard of them, but I think I just have a way with animals.
Zoki, who was maybe kind of just behind a rock that whole time, because I forget she's here, comes out. Oh, well, I'm all for taking the path of least resistance, so I say we follow this thing. At least this way there's no Yetis hiding in the snow if they carved a trail.
Is everyone all right?
Yeah.
I'm doing
all right.
Okay.
Tough, you took quite a hit back there. Do you need assistance?
Tuff kind of struggles and moans a little bit. Nothing that I can't work through on my own.
Very well. I guess onward.
Yeah, we don't want to be here any longer than we have to. And I'll start following the trail.
But I'm taking the front this time.
And Tuff shoves himself to the front of the pack.
Jules might stare at him for a moment before he gets in line as well.
All right, the 5 of you follow this trail that winds through the forest, and you walk for maybe another hour or two, completely undisturbed by any other creatures. You don't really see the direwolf all the time, but occasionally it pops out on a rock and just monitors where you're going and then disappears again. And again, you're traveling under the moonlight of Arcta through this snow, and after some time walking through the forest, can you all roll me a perception check?
Ryan got a 23.
15.
Good job, Ryan.
Not 20.
27.
All right. Yeah, you all rolled good enough for sure. As you make your way through some trees, after a while you start to smell burning wood, and a little bit later you see some smoke, and after a little bit more time you clear through some trees and see a quaint, humble cabin just in the middle of this forest with some smoke coming out the chimney, a little bit of light coming out of the windows, just some firewood stacked outside, surrounded by snow, and nothing too suspicious about it other than the fact it exists here. What do you do?
Hey, look, guys, somewhere warm.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Thank God.
And Tuff hurries his way over there.
Jules will look to Zoki. Ready to get some rest? Hopefully. There's someone nice in there.
As long as that abominable snowman's not in there, I'm happy.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the jurisdiction to mess with us anymore. And then I think Jules will probably look back where they came, just thinking about that direwolf again. How strange that was. Let's get inside.
I think Tuff will have started like rapping on the door.
Hey, hello? Anyone in there?
You knock on the door and hear the sounds of heavy feet approaching the door, and see the handle start to turn, and that is where we'll end our session.
Is it Hagrid?
It is Hagrid. Hey!
Harry Potter crossover.
Wizard
Harry.
Yeah, he's
I'm
got
a
a smashed
Hufflepuff.
birthday
You're a
cake.
Harry
You're a
wizard.
Harry wizard.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, you know what? Shut up. No one was talking, but shut up. I just don't know how else to.
Hey, we know the
I'm
drill.
still laughing at my stupid joke.
We know
Yeah.
the drill.
I am going to read some comments I found online, guys. I found these comments online.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yep.
Hopefully not where I think you
Just
found them.
perusing around.
Well, no, it's about the show, guys.
Oh.
Yeah. It's about Mortals and Portals, our podcast.
Then I really hope they aren't where I thought you
That's
found
what
them.
it's called?
Yeah. Anyways, okay. I want to read some comments that were on season 2, episode 23. They're kind of complimenting me, so I feel a little funny reading them, but it's more I want to talk about something in the comments.
Right.
So Caleb, who's commented on a few, and I don't know how to butcher his name because it's just Caleb. Okay, I don't know what else to say.
Caleb.
But yeah, he said, I feel like Zach doesn't get enough praise for how good of a GM he is. Not only is the story amazing, but he does a great job keeping the combat descriptions interesting. And then this is also the one where we had Taryn sound like a robot at the end, and he says, also, I got jump scared by Robo Taryn at the end. And then someone responded to that comment, George Schlorbendoofel, and he said, he goes, in all seriousness, I completely agree. I was initially hesitant about him doing so much of the description of PC reactions in combat, but I think he pulls off the sweet spot of letting them express their characters well, but also keeping the action moving and the narrative flowing. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we've also been playing with each other for a long time. But yeah, I do, like, anytime we're in combat, I just kind of like describe what happens. And that is because I think in our experience, we've noticed if every time I'm like, hey, how do you stab them? Like, then they have to like think of something, or like I can kind of like steer the narrative a little bit, knowing like what I'm going to do with like my guy or whatever on the next turn. And I think we just found that sometimes having them describe how they stab people and think about it really just like slows down the recording a little bit. But they all know that I could like say something and they could chime in and be like, actually, could you describe something more like this? And then Joel maybe cleans it up in editing. But
It's true.
I think that does come from playing with us or playing with each other a lot, because I probably wouldn't do that if it was like someone's first time playing, because it is fun to like describe what you do. But I think after you've played enough D&D, you can only describe stabbing someone so many times, so many different ways. So I've just found it's like faster to just have like kind of one person do it, because otherwise it'd be like, hey, what do you do? I do it this way. All right, cool. You know, kind of thing. But yeah, to each their own, but it works for us. And I appreciate that. I just appreciate you guys saying that. And yeah, because combat can get pretty boring if you're just like, yeah, he hits 6 damage. Yeah, he hits 5 damage, but I enjoy describing it. So thank you for the comments, and we'll see you next time, mortals.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, Jules will keep up with him because we know that Jules is really slow.
Canonically.
Tough sees Jules trying to catch up and starts taking bigger steps.
Tough, come on.
It'd be so hard for you to
being
outrun him. He's like 4 times your height. You're like running, literally.
Tough, stop, please.
Not stopping.
He's a little butthead, dude.
I think you're enjoying this a little too much.
Yeah. We're getting close to that store, Jules.
I don't get it, man. Ryan doesn't. He gets mad that I don't let him play, and now he's trying not to play.
Not to play, yeah. It's like Stockholm syndrome. I just learned to love it.
Do you remember Tide for Code?